Betrayal at the festival. I found out my partner was sleeping with someone else before he even told me he was interested in polyamory. One night, he came home smelling like perfume that wasn't mine, his shirt inside out, and told me he wanted to have an open conversation about exploring new forms of love. He talked about trust, honesty, and how we could be stronger together if we embraced this. I was so thrown off by his sudden philosophical take on relationships that I just stared at him, heart hammering in my chest, as he mapped out all the rules for openness, rules that seemed oddly specific for someone who supposedly just discovered the idea. The next few weeks were a blur of late-night absences and whispered phone calls in the bathroom. He always had an excuse. Work ran late, a friend needed him, he wanted time to process his feelings. When I asked about the woman who kept leaving lipstick stains on his coffee mugs, he'd laugh it off and say I was being paranoid that I needed to trust the process. I tried to play along, but it felt like I was watching my own life from the outside, waiting for the punchline. Everything exploded when I ran into him at a crowded street festival, except he wasn't alone. He was laughing, holding hands with a woman who looked nothing like me, and walking with a little boy who could have been his twin. I watched in shock as he bent down to tie the kid's shoes, the kind of small, intimate gesture he'd never once done with me. When our eyes met across the crowd, he froze, and I realized instantly that this wasn't some new adventure in polyamory. This was a second family, complete with a secret life and a child. I left before he could say a word. Heart pounding, mind spinning, but the betrayal wasn't just about the lies. It was about how easily I'd let myself be convinced that my boundaries were unreasonable, how I'd swallowed my doubts to keep the peace. The real twist was realizing I'd been more afraid of being alone than of being lied to, and that fear was what he'd counted on all along.